don't know if you've noticed this in the world of theatre, but it's something that's really creeping along at a very fast rate of knots. Oh, 100%. Well, yes, absolutely. And it's a thing that you notice because when you go to the theatre now, and I'm sure many of you have if you can afford it, and let's be honest, it's a treat now. It's not a sort of thing where you go on the spur of the moment, is it? But it's a big, expensive sort of night out, not just really because of the ticket prices that can go anywhere from 60 to 250 pounds, depending on what you're going to see, but simply other things too. And what I find fascinating about that particular genre is this. Now behind the scenes, everything's going to be, shall we say, reimagined. Let me explain. Hi, good to see you. Thank you so much for your time today. Lovely to have your company. You know, theatre doesn't have to be expensive. I don't know about you. I think some of the regional theatre stuff is just as good as, say, the Broadway or indeed the West End. Yes, the productions are at a lower level. Maybe the orchestra isn't as big and they don't have as many in the cast. But is that really any different now in the world of the West End and indeed Broadway? Have you noticed this new sort of genre that's crept in? And it's really crept in over the last few years. You see, I remember going to the very first opening night of Sunset Boulevard all those years ago at the Adelphi Theatre. And it was absolutely lush, a wonderful orchestra, a beautiful setting, a marvellous staircase, and a cast, a decent cast, which made the whole thing come alive. You know, no two ways about it. They worked hard, they sang well, but it was really the feeling of stepping back in time. You were in an era of the 1950s. But more recently, we're seeing this, aren't we? The reimagined, right? Oh yes, you know what I mean. The reimagined Sunset Boulevard, which is normally, for instance, you know, starring somebody younger, Nicole Scherzinger, right, who I just think is way too young to be playing the demented diva Norma Desmond. Now, again, here's where it gets interesting. No lush sets, no. These are movable things on, you know, caster wheels or indeed back projection. And that's what you kind of get. Now, coming again, is the reimagined Evita. So no lush sets, no doubt. This will be reimagined, as I say, with back projection and movable sets. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. If it keeps actors and actresses and techies and stage doors, everybody in work, it's marvellous. But it's not reflected, as you know, in the ticket prices. So before, when you went to an event and you saw, say, something like South Pacific or 42nd Street or something big like that, only last year at the London Palladium, they did a marvellous production of A Low Dolly, right? And it had a full orchestra and a big, big cast. It needs it on something like the Palladium stage. But now what we're seeing is this return back to the reimagined stuff, where, of course, basically you've got Evita, who possibly could have a back projection for a, you know, balcony scene or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not knocking these things, but surely that should be reflected in the prices. And when you think about it also, well, you look at it and say, well, if it's a lesser staff, if it's a lesser cost, and you're not giving a full orchestra and you're using playback tapes, surely your costs are lower, so why are they not reflective in the ticket prices? Anybody else agree, or is it just me? I'd love to know your thoughts. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.